This is a stimulus update and daily news report. More big news on the way. Pramila Jayapal just said in an interview that a vote is going to happen this week. I'll play you the video clip of what she says. I'll also play you the video clip from Representative Jim Jordan, Republican, saying that the Build Back Better plan is going to raise your taxes. I'll give you the Republican perspective there. Also, we'll talk about stimulus checks. Which state is going to give out $2,000 stimulus checks? We'll also go over this article right here. You could get $2,000 in round of surprise stimulus checks being sent out to Americans, how to find out if you qualify, and I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a great day. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 to my subscribers again, and I'll talk more about that later on in the video. But first, let's talk about stimulus check news first. So, Change.org petition for the $2,000 per month to every American, currently at 2,957,000 signatures. Still no fourth stimulus check into any package or standalone bill, but I'm going to go over many different state stimulus checks. So this article right here, you could get $2,000 in round of surprise stimulus checks being sent out to Americans, how to find out if you qualify. So this is going to go through 14 different states. I'm going to go through this as fast as I can. So in Arizona, out-of-work residents are able to take advantage of the state's back to work program, giving $1,000 for part-timers and $2,000 for full-timers. California has those stimulus checks going out today, 784,000 of those $500 and $600 state stimulus checks. Connecticut has a back to work program giving out $1,000 stimulus checks. Then we have Florida giving out $1,000 stimulus in cash for their commitment to educating during the pandemic. So that's going to teachers and principals. Same thing in Georgia. Teachers and principals will receive $1,000 in stimulus cash. Then we have Idaho, who is giving those living in Idaho could be eligible for one-time income tax rebate. More than 500,000 residents receive cash. The average check was $248. Maryland giving out $300 checks to individuals and anybody with kids, $500. Michigan giving teachers $500 in hazard pay bonuses. New Hampshire, $1,086 check is available to families without an income, or families of three without an income. Then we have New Mexico giving out $750 checks. Ohio giving students in Ohio may be able to get support from grant money worth $46 million. And then Oklahoma, a total of $13 million has been allocated in federal funding to pay student teachers in Oklahoma. And then Tennessee, officials passed legislation early 2021 to pay $1,000 bonus for full-time public school employees and $500 for part-time public school employees. I think that one is not just for teachers, but also janitors and cafeteria staff as well. Then Vermont is not issuing a direct payout, but the state is offering to cover moving expenses up to $7,500 for people relocating to the state. Then, so that's it for those. Those are 14. I'm going to give you one more right here. So, Senate passes spending bill with bonuses of up to $2,000 for Massachusetts essential workers. So, this just got passed last week. So, for essential workers who live in Massachusetts, they're going to get a $2,000 bonus. For people who showed up to work in person during the COVID pandemic. So that's the latest in terms of stimulus checks. If anything else changes or there's new states, I'll keep you updated on that. Subscribe if you want the latest in terms of the stimulus checks, state stimulus checks, and other programs like that. Next, let's talk about the Build Back Better plan. So it's getting totally different perspectives and scorings from the Democrats and Republicans. Of course, Democrats are voting for it all on their own with no Republican support. Therefore, they are all for it. But what about the Republicans' perspective? So Democrats will use Biden's Build Back Better Act to raise your taxes, according to Republican Representative Jim Jordan from Ohio. Check out this video clip here, and then I'm going to play you the video clip from Pramila Jayapal talking about the positive things about it.
We now know that American tax dollars went to EcoHealth. EcoHealth was doing gain-of-function research in that lab. We now almost for certain know that the actual virus came from the lab in China. In fact, I think Dr. Fauci knew this clear back on January 30th, 2020, when he got the email from Dr. Christian Anderson that says virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory, which is a fancy way of saying this thing came from a lab. So we've been misled all along. I hope Joe Biden will bring that up because we know what this virus has meant to the world, what it's meant to our country, what it's meant to our civil liberties. So let's hope he does. But frankly, I doubt that he will.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on all of that. Let me bring you back to domestic issues, Congressman, because I have this feeling that there is no regard for taxpayer money at all in this administration. I want to ask you about the infrastructure bill. Before I get there, we're looking at the graphics of this graphic of what's in the infrastructure bill. Joe Biden's expected to sign it into law tomorrow, but your colleagues voted for it. Are they going to lose committee assignments? I mean, where is the accountability? Why would your colleagues, 13 Republicans, vote for this bill when there's not a dime in it for the border wall?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I wish they wouldn't have voted for it. I wish this thing wouldn't have passed because you're right. There is simply no accountability for how we spend taxpayer dollars in the Biden administration. I mean, they're still paying people not to build the wall. They're getting ready to pay people who illegally came into our country $450,000. And then, of course, we have all the reckless spending that's led to the record inflation. I tell people the real consequences are for American families. You want to buy a home, it's going to cost more. You want to rent an apartment, it's going to cost more. To put food on the table, it costs more. To put gas in your car, it costs more. A Thanksgiving turkey and Christmas presents are going to cost more because of their crazy economic plan. Their economic plan is really, lock down the economy, spend like crazy, pay people not to work. And the bill that's coming next week, the so-called Build Back Better, they're getting ready to raise your taxes. So for all the people who have been working, you're now going to get a tax increase. Such a deal from the Democrats, but it's just craziness. And why we would have folks go along with that, I don't know, but we'll have to just wait and see.
Representative Jim Jordan is definitely a fiery individual. Let me know what you think about what he said. Do you agree, disagree? So he definitely has a different perspective when it comes to the Build Back Better plan. He mentioned inflation. So a Fed official said that inflation will likely see higher readings before numbers start to taper off. So if you thought inflation was high now, it looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better. So what they're saying here is the math suggests we're probably going to see somewhat higher readings over the next few months before they likely start to taper off. So it's going to be a rough winter, especially with higher cost in utilities like heat and other things like that with the colder weather coming. Pramila Jayapal saying that on social spending bill progress, we will have a vote this week. I don't know how many times we've heard that before, that a vote is going to happen this week. It's going to happen tomorrow, the next few days. It'll be done before the end of the week. I don't know how many times we've heard that, but here is Representative Pramila Jayapal, Progressive Caucus leader, giving us the latest of the big spending bill.
All right, so will there be a vote on Build Back Better as promised in that agreement this coming week?
I believe there will be, Jonathan. It's not the CBO score that we're waiting for. The 6 Democrats that we made a written agreement with and that publicly committed to us and to the President of the United States that they would vote on this bill pending agreement on top lines for the score, or not the score, but the fiscal information that would come from the CBO and the information that was already provided by the White House. That's really all we're waiting for. We're not waiting for a full score. So I do believe that we will have a vote this week on the Build Back Better Act. It will go to the Senate, and then it will be up to the Senate Democrats and the president, who gave us his commitment that he believed that he could get this across the finish line in the form that that the framework was presented. So yes is the short answer. We will have a vote this week.
Okay, and I just want to be clear. Yes, we will vote this week means the we is we in the House, correct?
That's correct. The agreement that we made was about passing the bill through the House, and that has been what we've been saying for weeks, that we wanted to make sure we passed both bills through the House. The Senate, we are taking the president's word and our Democratic colleagues in the Senate who need to do the work to make sure they've got 50 votes in the Senate to pass the Build Back Better Act, which, of course, Jonathan, if we can just take 30 seconds and say this is truly the transformational bill that will bring Americans relief. This is universal child care, universal pre-K, $555 billion of investment into bringing down carbon emissions following our performance at COP26 this past week. It is also the biggest investment in housing, $150 billion in housing, and also in healthcare, lowering healthcare costs for all Americans, including by cutting the cost of prescription drugs and capping the cost of, many important drugs like insulin, as well as, of course, lifting up immigrants. These are all the things that are in this transformational Build Back Better Act.
Okay, so that is in the Build Back Better Act as envisioned by the House of Representatives. And as we have seen, the House of Representatives, when a bill comes to the floor, when the House decides to pass something, it can pass. And I think for a lot of people who have been watching, there's no concern about the House of Representatives, whether you guys will actually pass Build Back Better. The concern comes in when that bill travels over to the other side of the Capitol, to the Senate, and what the Senate is going to do to Build Back Better. Are there things within the bill that that will pass the House? Are there red lines in there that once it comes back from the Senate, you can't possibly vote for passage of Build Back Better?
Well, the big thing to know here, first of all, it was not in, it was not assured that the bill would pass the House. That was a lot of work that we had to do to get us to the point where we were going to get hopefully every single Democrat. We might lose one. But every single Democrat to say that they would vote for the Build Back Better Act as it was drawn. But I think the important thing here, Jonathan, is what we've been waiting for the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks, and what the Progressive Caucus was able to get, is actually negotiations to take place between the two senators, Sinema and Manchin in the Senate, the White House, and the House, to get the vast majority of the bill pre-conference. That just means agreed to. Negotiations had not happened prior to 5 weeks ago, prior to us saying we got to pass both these bills and we're going to make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind. Now, the vast majority of this bill has been pre-conference. That is why it's no longer a $3.5 trillion bill. It's a $1.75 trillion bill. There are a few things that the House did add to the bill that have not necessarily been fully pre-conferenced. And hopefully the Democrats in the Senate and the president can prevail upon one or two senators to make sure that those pass. And that is going to be some work. But I just want to be clear, the vast majority of this, thanks to the work of the Progressive Caucus over the 5 weeks, has been agreed to by everybody.
Okay. So you mentioned, agreement of one or two senators, and we're talking about Manchin and Sinema. It's been reported that you have had meetings with Senator Sinema in the weeks prior. How confident are you that she is a serious negotiator, and that the meetings that you have had with her will result in a Build Back Better Act that can actually get out of the Senate and actually get to the president's desk for signature?
Well, I don't want to talk about the specifics of our conversation. I'll let her speak for herself, but she is absolutely a serious negotiator, that I can say. She has absolutely been at the table with the White House, that I can say. And I do believe she will be an incredibly productive force in helping us to get this across the finish line. So that, I think, is really important. And again, that's what I was trying to say. It's not like this bill hasn't been discussed and agreed to and negotiated. That's what we finally got happening over the last 5 weeks. And it was a very important step forward. And the president played an incredibly important leadership role in negotiating this with those two senators, with us in the House, and with, of course, the rest of the Senate.
So one of the things, now let's talk about Senator Manchin, because as I said in the intro, Senator Manchin has been expressing concern about inflation before those big inflation numbers came out last week, showing a 30-year high. How concerned are you? Should we be concerned about inflation and the impact Build Back Better would have on inflation?
This is a really important point. Part of the reason that people are talking about inflation is because there are costs rising for American families across the country. And that is in large part due to supply chains plus the recovery, the natural recovery from the COVID crisis and the economic crisis that we've been in for the last 2 months. And thanks to the president, we've made incredible advances, progress on all of these things. But it's going to take some time because we're not through COVID. So what American families are looking at right now, and by the way, we should say wages have risen at the same time. So the actual impact on families is not as big as whatever the rise in inflation is. But the thing that's important for us to know is families are hurting. They're still hurting. And if the cost of gas is rising, what we need to do is bring down costs in other parts of a budget. Jonathan, I have lived on a very fixed budget, tight budget, and what I know is if cost goes up in one area, I want to bring costs down in another area so that I can manage my money. And so if we pass the Build Back Better Act, we will cut childcare costs for families in half. We will cut the cost of pre-K for every family because 3- and 4-year-olds will get free universal pre-K. We will cut the cost of prescription drugs and health care. That is what families need us to do right now.
What are your thoughts on what Pramila Jayapal had to say? Do you agree, disagree? Is it the same as usual? Is there anything different to what she has to say? I think people just want to see action instead of being constantly told that things are going to happen and they're just empty promises. But let me know your thoughts on all of that. That is all the stimulus news I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. And what you should always do, you should always be together with someone. You should always have a friend beside you. You should always have someone right next to you because they might be lonely and you should always be with them. So that's all I wanted to say. So bye.
And that was just 2 minutes after waking up. Good job, Bella. Thank you so much for watching. So I mentioned earlier $200 checks. What's going on with that? So tomorrow I'm going to make the full announcement of how you could potentially win $200 checks for being a part of the Wise Flies community. So stay tuned for tomorrow's video and I'll announce that. If you want to check out any of my other videos, you could click up here or down here and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.